Thanks, Tony. What Tony was just saying was absolutely right. The whole idea of the place board is to try and reach out to the people of Skelmersdale and the wider part of Lancashire and say, we've got a great story here. Let's support each other and make it happen. So we are taking those first baby steps, but let's keep the momentum going. And the Ambassadors Programme is something to help us do that. So let's all work together to make it happen. I was going to do my pitch here and use my data tablet there as my cue card. So while the other speakers have been talking, my batteries run out. So I'm going to have to be looking over my shoulder all the time. On a positive note, I gave a similar presentation. Yesterday we had a recruitment day, and I did a presentation to a room full of eager and enthusiastic people who were looking to come and work at Fairbanks. And I'm glad to say that at the end of the day, 9 of those people were offered jobs. So we're a growing business, which is great. Good news for you, I managed to trim it down to an hour and a quarter yesterday. So you won't actually have to go to work too soon. The pitch is how the filling stations of the world are being protected from Skelmersdale. So here we are in little old Skelmersdale, and we've got this global reach. The dinner party conversation is, hi Steve, what do you do for a living? And the answer is, I find leaks at petrol stations. Somebody's got to do it. So I'm then thinking, how are we going to tie in what we do on our day-to-day basis with the themes that we have running through the place board and the Ambassadors Programme? So a celebration of working life, cultivating connections and green town living. I think if you can drive a 6-inch nail through something, you can call it a connection. That's what I think I've managed to do with the presentation. You can be the judge. So, celebration of working life. We've got 134, soon to become 143, office-based staff, 20 field-based engineers. Occasionally, if you're up one junction up the road, maybe going for your lunch at the investment centre, you may see a Fairbanks van in a car park. If you do, tell me, because they should be out earning money, not in the car park. Of our office-based staff, 37 of them live within West Lancashire. And that's not that high a proportion, really. We've got a relatively young workforce, probably 25, 26 is the average age. And I'm really bumping it up. And the younger element tend to live in Liverpool or Manchester, because when we think about the nighttime economy in Skelmersdale, there's not really an awful lot going on, is there? Opportunity to change and grow and make that happen. And that may encourage more of our youngsters to live and work here and to grow the town and the vitality that it requires. We have great connections with Edge Hill University. 25 of our current staff are ex-Edge Hill graduates. Cultivating connections. We touch with various parts of the local economy, be it the Edge Hill University or the local schools through enterprise days or a work experience or mock interviews or whatever it might be. And we're just embarking on an apprenticeship program with West Lancs College. We've also got great connections with the Owls, the Ormskirk and West Lancashire Business Focus. From my point of view, there aren't many people within the Owls Forum who own petrol stations. It's very disappointing when you go to a networking event and you've got no potential customers there. However, what I have got is potential suppliers and providers of services and goods. And I'm looking around the room at a couple of my fellow Owls and I'm thinking, yeah, we do business with you, and we do business with you, and we do business with you. And that's what being part of this community is about from my point of view. We are firmly rooted in Lancashire. I was born in Lancashire. It was Liverpool, but when I was born, it was in Lancashire. I live in Lancashire. Our business has been based in Lancashire for the past 20 years, when we founded it. In fact, the last time I was stood on this stage, I was saying how I'm no longer part of the business because I just sold it. And yet, here I am. But it's great to still be at the helm because our new owners have asked me to stay on as managing director, which is fantastic. But it just gives me an opportunity to continue those connections through the chamber and the presentations, the awards, the recognition that we've received as a business, and how that touches and connects with all the different parts of Lancashire. We're very proud of our 2 Queen's Awards. It only took 13 years to get from innovation to international achievement, but we got there in the end. just going back to firmly rooted in Lancashire, as they, last time I was on the stage was sort of May, June time, and we just sold the business, and we're now part of a multi-billion-dollar American corporation. I don't know if any of you have come across the Dover Group. Fortune 500 company. Last year they had a turnover just shy of $7 billion. And here we are in little old Lancashire, part of that mighty corporation, which is great from our point of view because it takes us onto a new level of potential investment into our business. We are connecting with businesses across the globe. One of our guys is, two of our guys rather, are in Shanghai next week, connecting with the Dover Corporation businesses in Shanghai. We're recruiting a couple of people in Shanghai to bring back to Skelmersdale. We're recruiting people from the area here to learn the ways of Fairbanks, to take that knowledge back to Shanghai and set up Fairbanks China. I was delighted yesterday when we managed to recruit a guy who was from Egypt, because we've just started working in Egypt. So, you know, we are taking what we do in Lancashire across the globe. Greentown living. In the bad old days, people used to bury steel underground and put petrol and diesel in it and expect it not to rot. And it did. And it still does. But in the bad old days, people didn't used to notice because they didn't have good controls in place. And so you have a pipe connecting a petrol tank to a petrol pump in South Wales, which managed to put 14,000 litres of unleaded fuel into the ground in Cardiff. It wasn't too clever because it was opposite BBC Radio Wales, and the reporters were over there as soon as the fire brigade turned up. My former business colleague is the only one in our business who's daft enough to get inside an underground storage tank, and that's his hand pointing at a hole in a tank in Shoreditch in London that put 26,000 litres of fuel into the ground in Shoreditch, quite close to Shoreditch Underground Station. You don't really want to have a load of petrol near an underground station. That's what used to happen in the old days. It used to cost our customers a fortune to clean up the mess. So in year one of our customers spent over £1 million cleaning up the mess of environmental issues because they had 4 leaks that were identified. As our systems were implemented, we found more leaks for them, but we were finding them faster, and their remediation costs plummeted. It's a bit of a no-brainer now in the UK market to have a monitoring system in place. So we're going to different parts of the world. South Africa at the moment is a big expansion for us because they are where we were 15 years ago in terms of contamination and environmental issues. China is an environmental disaster waiting to happen. In the UK, we bury steel in double-wall tanks underground. In China, they're still using single-wall tanks. So 5, 10, 15 years from now, that's going to be the story in China if we don't implement our systems sooner. So a bit about Fairbanks in numbers. I say we've got 130 odd staff, and here I'm saying we've got 200 staff. It's because I tell lies, really. No, seriously, we've franchised the Fairbanks brand. So we've got outlets in Turkey, in Spain, South Africa, Canada. So this incorporates our licensees, our franchisees, if you like. 20 years in business, looking after 50,000 underground storage tanks on 12, nearly 13,000 petrol stations across the globe. Looking at 50 billion litres of fuel. Can you imagine how much that is? Every time a road tanker drives past you, 1.5 million of them we're keeping an eye on, making sure that they're delivered safely. And we're operating in 35 countries. I'm not sure if all 35 are on there, but you could perhaps do a quick count. So from Skelmersdale, one junction up the motorway, where we've just invested $500,000 in a brand new state-of-the-art data centre, we are monitoring petrol stations right across the globe. We're doing something quite interesting here, in terms of offshoring. I'm sure that you've all come across the idea in the past where we've got an IT development that needs to be done, so we offshore it to a development house in India. We are doing a development for a major global player who will remain Exxon. We are developing a system for their global network of petrol stations. We are writing the software in Skelmersdale, which is going to be used by their staff in Bangkok. We can do it. We have the technology, we've got the workforce, we've got the enthusiasm. We can be global players. How do we do what we do? Well, we capture data and we look for statistical trends. When I did a degree, it was computational and statistical science. Computer science hadn't even been invented at that point. And I still recall having to use punch cards to get the computers to understand what I wanted it to do in Fortran. They never understood it properly. They always came back with errors. So we use statistical analysis we harvest data and we use statistical analysis to look for trends. And we store data in the cloud. It's very important that we say we store data in the cloud. It's good marketing speak, but also some organizations don't really want their data going offshore. The Chinese in particular are very anxious about the data going beyond their shores. And yet if we say to them the data is stored in the cloud, they're perfectly okay with that. The cloud can be found at junction 4. So the information comes into our data engine, and then we've got a team of 75 data analysts who look at these anomalies and then investigate and say, well, why are the numbers not stacking up? They then work with the customer to get resolution as quickly as possible. We harvest fuel prices, alarm conditions, so if there's water in a tank that may cause your car to break down, then the information comes to us and we notify the retailer to stop selling fuel from that tank. Keep an eye on temperature. You know, if you imagine you buy fuel in litres, but litres tend to expand and contract with temperature. And when you make petrol or diesel, you make it by getting crude oil and making it quite warm and cracking it down to its constituent parts and then selling it as petrol or diesel. And then it will shrink as it moves from the refinery to the underground storage tank. So temperature is a very important thing. I need to talk faster. So this is the sort of data that we capture. We look for anomalies, and then we serve it back to our customers by way of a dashboard. And it gives them a chance to reconcile their stock levels so they know when they need more. It gives them an opportunity to look at the trend in prices. Prices going up, prices going down. Do we need to build our stocks up? Do we need to let them run down a little bit? What are our competitors selling their fuel at? So I'm an independent garage operator. What's the supermarket up the road doing it? What's the other independent 2 miles doing? So they can pitch their pricing so they can get their right margins. Are we having sudden losses? People have got a habit of going onto a petrol station at dark o'clock at night and stealing diesel by putting a hose into the tank and slurping up 10,000 litres of diesel. That's not too convenient if you go there to your petrol station in the morning and you've got nothing to sell. So we alert our customers about sudden losses, and if possible, we thwart the theft by having an interface from our systems to the alarm systems on site. Nozzle flow rates. How quickly are you filling up your car? Since the advent of biodiesel, those little bio bits are a breeding ground for microbes. And those microbes multiply and clog up the filters on the petrol pumps. So the flow rate reduces. So the customers get fed up and think, I'm only going to put a tenner's worth in rather than filling my tank up because I've been stood here for 20 minutes already. So we let our customers know when the flow rates are running down so they can take proactive maintenance. Another big issue about the microbes is that they tend to secrete sulfuric acid, which corrodes the tanks from the inside out. So flow rates, again, is an indication of the presence of these microbes, which is an indicator of a potential problem. So it gives our customers a chance to clean out their tanks, clean out the fuel. How often is a petrol pump used? Has it been out of action for a while? Are the maintenance providers doing their job properly? So from sunny Skelmersdale, we're reaching right across the globe. Should have updated that because I haven't called it Togo in on that map. Because Togo is the latest one on our hit list. That's what we do, and we're doing it for some big old brand names. Exxon don't let us put their logo up. So if you drive past a petrol station during the course of the day, there's a fair old chance that Fairbanks are keeping an eye on it, because we keep an eye on roughly 75% of the petrol stations in the UK. That's me. Thanks very much for your attention.